Greetings and salutations. Thanks for hanging out with me for a while. In this video, we're going to do an in-place upgrade of Linux Mint from 19.1 to 19.2. It is a tradition on this channel that we take a look at the newer versions of Linux Mint pretty soon after they come out, and this time around we're on the same day, August the 2nd, 2019. The new versions were announced earlier today as being available, and then the upgrade instructions came up just a little while ago. So we are talking about Linux Mint 19.2 Tina. We're going to take a look at the Cinnamon edition. The other desktops that Linux Mint ships with, they are available as well. So if you like XFCE or Mate, then those desktops are available for download and you can upgrade them as well. So the first thing that we need to do is just kind of take a look around the announcement, I would suppose. This is a long-term support release. It's the first thing they want you to know, and it's going to be good until 2023, which also means that 19.1 is long-term support, and so is 19. So if you're on those earlier versions and you like what you have and you don't see anything going on here that makes you want to jump up and upgrade, the truth is you don't have to upgrade. You can stay right where you're at and everything will be fine. We'll take a look at the new features in just a few moments. First, let's talk about the minimum system requirements. They say you need at least 1 gigabyte of RAM. I think that's being rather optimistic for running Linux Mint with Cinnamon, because it would be extremely slow. 2 gigabytes, in my opinion, would be the bare minimum, and the more the better, of course. Disk space, 20 gigabytes recommended, 15 bare minimum. 1024 by 768 resolution at the bare minimum as well. They say that if any of the windows go off the screen, you can press Alt to drag windows with the mouse. That's so you can get to buttons. Somebody contacted me just the other day asking me about that. So yeah, you can run it on low resolution. It just requires a little bit of, altering how you do things, I guess, and learning how to drag things around. That might be useful on a netbook. And let's see here, an important note about the 64-bit ISO being bootable with BIOS or UEFI. If you choose to download the 32-bit version, then that is only going to work with BIOS. If you have a 64-bit processor in your computer, no matter how old it is, there's really no good reason to use a 32-bit version of any operating system. 32-bit is very fast going away as far as support is concerned. There are many third-party applications that don't support 32-bit these days. So unless you absolutely don't need it, I suggest that you go with a 64-bit. And they pretty much say the same thing. They recommend 64-bit for all modern computers, but they are still offering the 32-bit versions. The update instructions have been released, and they say if you are running the beta already, that all you need to do is use Update Manager to apply available updates, and you're automatically on the full version from the beta. And then they give download links. So that's just about it as far as the announcements are concerned. What we want to do is we are going to go over here and talk a bit about new features and see what's in here, whether you want to do the upgrade or not. Kernel support just got better, they say, in the Update Manager. Now you can choose a bunch of the old kernels if you want to get rid of them. Of course, Linux Mint does this manually. In Ubuntu these days, the Update Manager automatically updates you to the latest kernel in the run for whatever exact dot release of Ubuntu you're on, and then it will delete the old one the next time around. It does that automatically, tells you that there's some packages in there that you don't need and you can take them out. But in Linux Mint, it's pretty much a manual thing, and if you don't go and remove your old kernels, you might find that you have a whole bunch of revisions of the same kernel on your machine and things will start to slow down. So that's just the way it works. They've made the process easier, and now they're talking about that you can mix flavors of kernels, so that if you are running a generic, not a non-generic kernel, you can actually manage it through the kernel updater. And it also tells you how long those kernels are going to be supported, if they are those little interim release kernels, those hardware enablement kernels that come from Ubuntu that only are good for like 9 months. You'll know, hey, I got to move on to something, because they'll let you know how long that kernel is going to be supported. Kernels in Ubuntu are the most confusing thing to new users, and my hat is off to the Linux Mint developers to try and make it at least a little bit easier to understand. But even with all of these new improvements, I can still tell you it's going to be confusing. So the preferences now have been simplified and now use the newly introduced XAppG settings widgets. So that's for the update manager. We're doing preferences here? Or are we talking? Yeah, I guess so. So take a look at that. Preferences and update manager. It says it right there. Duh, Louis. So let's see. The automatic refresh is now configurable. You can also configure automated updates in the background if you want it to. It'll pull down the updates and install them, but it won't prompt you to restart, I guess. I don't know. It's what they're talking about here. I never use automatic in the background updates. That seems to be a thing that Ubuntu's into right now, and they're talking in Linux Mint's moving this direction as well. I don't think doing updates when I can't see them being installed and I don't know what's being installed is a good idea. But that's just me. I like to actually, be aware of what's going on. So let's see. System shutdown reboot is inhibited when automated tasks are performed. That's what I was trying to talk about there. I don't see anything else here that's really that jump up and down and scream about amazing. Now when the update manager updates itself, it puts up a big sign to tell you it's doing it. What it has done for many years is just that you look in the updates that are to be installed and it says that you'll have Mint Update. And I think a lot of us figured out that that was the update manager, but I guess they felt like now they needed to make a big announcement about the update manager being installed. In the software manager, a loading screen now shows up when the cache is being refreshed. That's when you first load it. You just don't sit there and look at a blank screen and wait for it to load. That's a pretty good idea because sometimes that takes a little while for that to happen. Support for low-resolution screens was improved. I'm always down with that because there are people out there who need to run high resolutions because of visual impairment, and some people just don't have 4K screens hooked up to their computers. So let's see here. It says here that the backup tool and the software manager are able to share the same cache. So that way it knows what applications are installed via the software manager, but that's nice. Other improvements. 2 new buttons are available. In the maintenance section, there's one that'll go and look for your security keys. This is in software. So yeah, that's actually pretty nice in case you're missing a key. Then they talk about the system reports tool, which is not something that I fool around with much. They talk about performance. So we get Cinnamon 4.2 here. In the menu now, it will show you what text editors you have installed. If you have 2 different ones, like if you decide to install gedit and then they have Xed, that's kind of nice actually, so you know exactly what application you're looking at. I'm a big fan of having the menu give me the name of the app. I'd rather see Xed or gedit and not text editor, but they've decided to do both, and I guess that's a good thing. Also here they're talking about applications that are installed. Did I say, what did I say? I don't know. Installed? Is that a new word? I kind of like that. Installed from the FlatHub, a Flatpak. Now it comes up and it tells you that it's the Flatpak version because you can have both versions running. And then we go into scroll bar settings. This is one that for years people have asked me about in Cinnamon. Is there any way to change the scroll bar settings? Well, guess what? They're here. So you can do that now. You can pin files now in the file manager, which means that you can just right-click on something and pin it. And we'll take a look at that. Something about Samba. Samba is a huge pain in the butt, and I don't know anybody who has a great deal of success using it. And I encourage everybody who's trying to make Samba work to go learn and how to use SSH because it's horrible. Other improvements. The screensaver now has an on-screen keyboard. A printer applet was added. Plug a printer in and it should show up. Recent documents are now enabled by default. I like that because the first thing that I usually do when I'm setting up a Linux Mint machine is go in there and turn that on. It's under privacy. The option to choose your favorite PDF reader was added to preferred applications. The background slideshow applet shows the file names of the current background. Woohoo! The session manager was ported to GDBus, whatever that means. I don't even know what that is. Inhibitors no longer prevent forced logouts. Okay, that means that you're trying to shut the machine down, I would suppose, and it's saying, no, I'm doing something. Well, I'm going to let you do it anyway. Natural scrolling can be configured for mice if you want that. I've never wanted that in my life. The screensaver fader was removed. Thank God. That thing causes problems because in virtual machines, for some reason, it'll come up full blast. Have you ever noticed that if you run Linux Mint in VirtualBox that the background is blown out? That's why it does that. A new option was added in the privacy settings to toggle internet connectivity checking. Okay, that's nice. The condition for menu actions can now be an external script or command. Wow. Okay, I don't know how that works. They talk about improvements to the X apps, which are all of the Linux Mint utilities that are in here. Boot repair was added to the installation ISO image. It's able to repair most boot configuration problems. That is awesome. Thank you. That means that you keep your installation around, and now you can use this program. This is actually a really powerful program, and it's a pointy-clicky program, and if you have a machine that won't boot, it's going to try and fix it. Very neat little program. I think we talked about it years ago here on the channel, but I haven't implemented it since because it gets kind of tricky because what you have to do with boot repair is usually you have to try and install it to your boot image. You know, like you're running off of a live environment of some sort from a DVD or a USB. And what happens with that is that that's tricky. It just can be weird and it doesn't work. So if they've already integrated it, that's awesome. And they talk about the artwork and blah 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 blah. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm sure you're as bored with it as I am. Let's actually go and look and see what it looks like when we go to upgrade, and we'll get the instructions here. So the first thing it says is to create a system snapshot. That is assuming you have TimeShift running. It nags you to do that these days, so go ahead and create a snapshot before you upgrade. That way, if you don't like it or it bombs out, that you can go back. If anything goes wrong, just roll it right back. It's what they say here. Prepare for the upgrade. They say to disable your screensaver. That means just turn everything off. And if you've installed Cinnamon Spices, applets, desktop extensions, upgrades, all that kind of stuff, upgrade them from system settings, so it says. And then we will upgrade the operating system. So let's go ahead and do that right now. I have a virtual machine that's up and running. The screensaver is turned off. It's all set up. I've never installed any extensions, so I don't care. So we can just go ahead and do that. So what they tell you to do is to go to the update manager. Here it is. You notice that our upgrade that we have to download is Mint Upgrade Info. So that means we install this first, and then we should be able to do our upgrade. And here's once my password. I'm happy to give you a password so you can install the upgrade. This is one package, so it shouldn't take too terribly long to do. We'll just go ahead and do it. And then we will do the upgrade in place. You will see exactly how it works. Come on, it's one package. Jeez. I'm kind of dumb. I guess there's a whole lot of people trying to do exactly what I'm doing right now, which means that all of the Linux Mint mirrors around the world right now are going to be running real slow. My Linux Mint installations are hooked up to James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. I used to live there. I think it's kind of cool. I used to live like a half a mile down the road from James Madison University. And so that's where they have mirrors. If I was still living there, it would have been really cool to be able to be that close to them. So it says that it is under edit, and it's prompting us to upgrade. I saw it flash up there. Let's see if we can actually get down to fire the thing off. And we will see what it does here. So It shows up and it says next. We're fine. We're good. Let's see. We can read the release notes here if you want to. Let's click next. We can read about new features. We just looked through that stuff. I understand the risk. Yeah, anytime you do an in-place upgrade, there is always the slight chance that your system could go kerflooey. And so before you do this, create your snapshot and make sure that you have a backup of your personal data. And then we will go ahead and apply. I'm going to ask for my password yet again. And I do realize that this is kind of small print, gang, so if you can't really see what's going on, it's really obvious. That's why I'm announcing everything that it's doing. You're not missing much. These upgrades are actually really super easy to do. These have no... We can go ahead and show it downgrading the files. The difference between Linux Mint 19.1 and 19.2, or rather upgrading the files, it's getting the upgraded files right now. The difference between the two versions of Linux Mint are very small. It's just a few packages. It's just the Linux Mint stuff itself that needs to be upgraded because it's still the same version of Ubuntu that it's running under there. Alright, so now it's grabbed all of the packages and I guess it's going to come up here and start installing them, which would be kind of cool. And it seems to be trying to figure out what to do next. It's taking a little bit of time here. I don't know whether this virtual machine seems to be running a little bit slower than virtual machines ordinarily run. Here we go. We're going to do we're doing the installation. Oh, we're still downloading files. We're not done. It downloaded a batch and now it's downloading another batch. Okay. And it's saying here it's got about a minute remaining. Now I'm doing this video in the afternoon, so I got my son sitting over here doing God knows what on his computer. And then my daughter is also in her room playing with her devices, which means that I actually have a lot of people on Wi-Fi, so that could be contributing to the slow down a little bit. My network is Wi-Fi enabled. It's not Ethernet, unfortunately, and that's simply because of the fact that I cannot run the cables to do that. But hopefully here sometime soon, we're talking about moving into a bigger place, and when that happens, I am going to see if it would be possible to either find a place that already has Ethernet through the walls, or maybe it will be easier to actually do it myself. This is a 150-year-old house that I live in. No, it's not quite that old, is it? It's 129 years. No, 119. This house was built in 1900. 150-year-old neighborhood, 100-year-old house. Anyway, the point is that actually trying to get through the walls and run wire is not easy. And I don't think the landlord would be real thrilled with me anyway if I called him up and said, "Hey, can I drill holes in the floor so I can bring Ethernet cables up through?" Don't worry, I'll do a real neat job. Actually, no, I would have to hire somebody to do it. I'm not crawling under a house, man. It's not happening. It's just not at this age. No. I'm at the age now where I don't do things like that. I find some young whippersnapper to do those kind of things for me. So we're almost done downloading. I want to at least get into the part where it's installing the new packages. I want to kind of see how long that's going to take. Like I said, right now the servers are busy. My Wi-Fi is bogged down. So now we are installing the new packages. So let's open up details so we can see what it's doing. It's getting itself together. And of course, if you are running like new hardware and you're using SSDs and things like that, it'd probably be a lot faster. This is a virtual machine, and my virtual machines live on a spinning drive, so it's a little bit slower. This virtual machine emulates a Core Duo with 4 gigabytes of RAM. So this is about the speed that I would expect to see this kind of thing happen on those machines. So we're going to go ahead and let it do that. And then the next thing, when it prompts something on the screen, we'll come back and see what that's all about. All right, so it just now got finished installing the updates. I actually watched it sit there and change the background. So you'll notice that before the background was kind of too bright and blown out looking, right? Well, now it looks the way it should. That's because that shader was actually turned off. And it says you're done. So all you have to do is restart the computer. So let's do that now. We'll close that. And we're not going to worry about that. We'll come down here to the menu. It loads okay. It's taking its time though. Can I have some buttons, please? Thank you. They changed the icons for the buttons. So I had to reload all of those. So let's restart and we'll see if there's anything different in the boot. I doubt there is, but I just want to make sure that it doesn't say Linux Mint 19.1 still. It actually says Linux Mint 19.2. So let's see, that's coming up now. And we will, as soon as it comes up, and see if that comes up at all. Maybe it won't this time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. That seems to be doing its normal thing, though, which is a good thing. Yep, it says 19.2. Alright, the desktop is all popped up here. I did notice that the Update Manager icon has not popped up. Let's see if we can fire that off manually. Let's go to Update Manager and see if that will open, because it did not open automatically after I booted it up. Okay, it's here. Because I wanted to look kind of at how the kernel thing was laid out, and it immediately tells us that we need to upgrade to a new Linux kernel. So I thought this machine was already on the latest Linux kernel, which I find rather interesting. And it says it wants to look at the mirrors. So let's go ahead and do that as well. All of the mirrors are running slow today, so I'm not real worried about that. Or did that not say mirrors? Maybe it didn't. I don't know. It asked a question. It looked like mirrors. I saw okay. I have no idea what I just enabled. Sorry about that. I thought it said something about mirrors. I'll only find out once I watch the video. It's always fun doing these things like this. No prep whatsoever. I didn't even try this before. So we're both doing it for at the same time here. All right, so let's see. These are our kernels available to us right now. 418, because that's the current one for, what is that? What is the 418 series? It's the latest one is supported only till now. And then we have that one, which is this one is the one that's in Ubuntu 1904 right now, I think, is 5 something. So there you go. Yeah, that's supported till February of 2020. Because if you would install Ubuntu 1904 right now, you would be good until Ubuntu 2004 came out. So that makes perfect sense. It says that the latest kernel is the one that is the latest kernel is already installed, 415.0-55, but yet what does it want us to do in the Update Manager? It wants us to, that's kind of interesting, it wants us to install 54, that revision, so I got no clue. Very interesting indeed. I mean, I guess you could go ahead and install it. It certainly wouldn't hurt anything. And now we have the ability to remove old kernels. So if I click Remove Kernels, it shows me all of the old kernels that I have installed here. And I can apply. We can go ahead and do that, right? Go ahead and see what happens when this does this. and it's going to sit there and crunch for a while. And then it will come up and start removing the old kernels. Let's look and see if we can create a document to pin. See how that works while that's doing that. So now we have, let's see, what if I want to pin a document? Let's try and pin, see, because I don't quite understand how that's supposed to work. So what if I want to pin something? I right click and then I pin it. So I get an extra copy there that's pinned. I guess that's how that works. This is your pin. So, oh, I would see. So you put them up toward the top. That's what the deal is. So if you had like a bunch of them in here, you could have a link to it up at the top. So let's unpin that. So that's how that works. What else did we want to look at? I want to look in system settings and see if I can find where you do the scroll bars. So let's open up settings. It's taking a while to load settings. We could make the, I guess we could make the fonts a little bigger. Let's do font selection. It's on 1.3, but it still seems a bit small. And you did notice that the background, I don't know if I said this or not, the background brightened up again. So that's not, it's not that setting with the backgrounds that does that, obviously. That's just a weirdness in VirtualBox. All right, so we have increased the font size. Let's see. I don't remember where that was supposed to be. I would guess that it would be under Windows. Let's see here. Title bar. All right. Behavior. Under Alt-Tab, you can change this. So where is the settings that have to do with scroll bars? Is it in Workspaces? Well, why don't we just look up here and see what we can see? Alright, let's see what we got. How to upgrade, that's not the one that we want. We want this one. These are always fun to do. Let's see what we got here. Okay, that's the settings. We're not going to look at that. We already talked about that. What I want to know is where I'm at to find this. It says System Settings. It's in Themes, obviously. Themes. Okay, I didn't note that before, so let's go to Themes. Let's see if we can make those scroll bars bigger. I've had a lot of people ask me about that. That's why I'm taking the time to look at it. So we go to Settings, Icons, let's see. Use overlay scroll bars, that is on. Override the current theme's scroll bar width. Okay. So let's get something with scroll bars so we can see how big they are. A little bigger. But it's not like you can adjust the size of the scroll bar. I didn't see anywhere you could do that. Maybe you can. Hold on. Let's go back and look. And yes, of course, I already closed it. But it's easy to get back to, so it's no big deal. Go to themes. For whatever reason, this is very slow, but I don't think this would be this way on real hardware. VirtualBox is slow. Oh, here we go. Duh. It was right in front of you, and if it was a snake, it would have bit you. That's right. Let's just make them really big. What if we want giant scroll bars? Will you let us do it? I don't see any indication that they're getting bigger. Alright, it's now set to 38. These are big scroll bars. Look at that. There. So if for some reason you need giant scroll bars, you can do it. So we figured out how to do that. And let's load software just to see what the splash screen looks like, because we haven't seen that yet. That's generating the cache, and it's telling us to wait. And remember that well, that didn't take long to load at all, actually. So, yep, there you go. So we've looked at the basic stuff. The rest of it's going to be performance improvements. We have moved ahead one version of the Cinnamon desktop. And I have fumbled my way through figuring that out. And you see how long it took me. You saw it in real time. So is this worth you upgrading? It's entirely up to you if you want to do that. If I was running Linux Mint 19.1 for the performance improvements alone, I would probably go ahead and upgrade. I don't know whether pinning files I don't know whether that's something I'd use, honestly, to tell you the truth. I do like the fact that they now ship with the file setting for the menu on, where you can look at recent files. That's going to be on from now on. I usually set mine to store that for 30 days. So whatever the recent files were, you know what I mean? And after that, it can dump it off the list. So that's a setting that you might want to take a look at. All in all, solid work. Great job from the Linux Mint people. It gets better and better all the time. And I'm glad that they're working on this update manager to make it even more useful, especially the kernel tools, simply because of the fact that this is the biggest pain that I deal with when I'm administering people who work with Linux Mint, honestly, is the kernel. Because what people will do is they will install it, and then they will never remove an old kernel. And Linux Mint does that manually, and if you can't even do it from the command line like you can in Ubuntu. You know, like if you do Ubuntu, you do sudo apt auto remove, it will remove the old kernels. That's disabled in Linux Mint. So the only way that you can actually do it is with this application right here. And some people just don't do it. And I already removed all the old kernels and showed you how that works. So this is definitely an improvement. So upgrading, it's entirely up to you. Installing, if I was installing Linux Mint from scratch, just starting, definitely this is what I would go for. 18.2. Or rather 19.2, sorry. Jump back a series in my brain. But I would definitely go for the latest if I was installing from scratch. So that's going to be about it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed me poking around and taking a look. We did the upgrade. It worked. Pretty awesome. As usual, your feedback is always welcome. Check out EzeeLinux.com for pretty much all things that have to do with Easy Linux. You can look at them there. Also, join the discussion at EzeeTalk, and that is free, secure, and fun. That is our very own forum, which is extremely well moderated. Please be sure to give Easy Linux a like on Facebook if you are a Facebook user as well. That is certainly appreciated, and we will do it again soon. Thanks for watching.